My name is Jake, and I never imagined that a single job interview could change the course of my life so completely. I had been searching for work for months, applying to every office, boutique, and startup I could find, barely scraping by on part-time gigs and odd jobs. The city was relentless, fast, and unforgiving, and I was tired, stressed, and more than a little desperate. Then came the call. A wealthy client, a woman named Victoria Langford, wanted someone to assist her in her personal affairs. It sounded simple at first: a personal assistant, someone organized, discreet, reliable. I arrived at her mansion that first morning with my resume in hand, wearing a suit I had borrowed from a friend and a polite, professional smile I hoped would hide the nervous energy in my chest. The house was enormous. Marble floors gleamed under the sunlight streaming through tall, elegant windows. The smell of fresh flowers and expensive perfume filled the air. I was led through a hallway lined with portraits of Victoria's ancestors, all women of sharp features and impeccable posture, staring down as though judging me before I had even opened my mouth. Victoria herself appeared at the top of a sweeping staircase. She was striking, tall, elegant, with the kind of presence that demanded attention without a single word. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, swept over me as though she was sizing me up completely, taking in my posture, my attire, my very essence. "Jake," she said, her voice low, smooth, and commanding. "Welcome." I nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you, Mrs. Langford. I'm honored to be considered for this position." She descended the staircase gracefully, heels clicking softly against the marble. "I've read your resume. Impressive on paper, but I'm looking for someone more adaptable. Someone who can fit a role perfectly, even if it isn't exactly what they expected." I blinked, unsure what she meant. I'm willing to learn, Mrs. Langford. I'll do my best in any capacity." Her lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile. "Good. Adaptability is key. In fact," she paused, tilting her head slightly, "I have a very particular requirement. You see, I've always wanted a daughter, someone to share my life with, to learn from me, to carry forward the elegance and grace of our family. I don't have one. But perhaps we can find a solution." My mind froze. Did I hear that correctly? Was this some sort of elaborate joke? "You want me to be your daughter?" I asked cautiously, my voice barely above a whisper. Victoria's smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Not in the literal sense, Jake. I want you to embody the role, my daughter, my social companion, someone who can represent me in society. But only if you're willing." "Are you?" The words hung in the air, heavy and intoxicating. I had faced many strange job interviews, but nothing like this. And yet, there was a thrill in the absurdity, a forbidden excitement in the idea of becoming someone entirely different, someone admired, elegant, and undeniably visible in a world I had only observed from the shadows. I think I can," I said finally, though my voice trembled. I'm willing to try." Victoria's gaze softened, just slightly, and she nodded. "Excellent. Then you will start tomorrow. Come prepared to meet the role fully, Jake. Your attire, demeanor, and attitude must reflect what I expect from a daughter of this family. Perfection is required. Nothing less will do." That night, I returned to my small apartment, mind racing. I had never thought about cross-dressing seriously, though I had experimented in private before, exploring the feminine persona I kept hidden from the world. Now, here was a chance, not just to explore it, but to fully inhabit it, under the watchful eye of a wealthy, influential woman who expected nothing less than perfection. I dug through my wardrobe, pulling out skirts, blouses, and shoes I had kept hidden. The thrill of anticipation mixed with anxiety as I touched the fabrics, imagining how they would feel on my skin, how I would move, how I would look. My hand shook slightly as I picked a simple, elegant dress, a pair of subtle heels, and a scarf that would add sophistication to the ensemble. Makeup was next. I stared at the mirror, heart pounding, and began transforming. Foundation to smooth the skin, a touch of blush to warm the cheeks, eyeliner to make my eyes appear larger, mascara for depth, and a subtle lip tint. Each stroke was a small thrill, each movement making the transformation more real. The reflection staring back was no longer just Jake, I was someone new, someone delicate, elegant, and, in a strange way, powerful. The next morning, I arrived at the mansion wearing the outfit I had chosen, makeup carefully applied, hair styled neatly. Victoria greeted me at the door, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "Perfect," she said simply, and I felt a shiver run through me. Perfect. The word carried weight, expectation, and a hint of something more, approval, perhaps, or the challenge of living up to her standards. The day passed in a blur of instruction, observation, and small corrections. Victoria guided me on how to move gracefully, speak softly but confidently, and carry myself with the elegance of someone born into refinement. Every correction, every gesture, every subtle adjustment made me more aware of the persona I was creating, more aware of the thrill and the vulnerability that came with it. By the end of the day, I was exhausted but exhilarated. Isabella, my girlfriend, called later that evening, and I hesitated before answering. How could I explain this new life I was beginning, this transformation I had already begun under Victoria's watchful eye? Could she understand, accept, or even support this change? My mind raced with questions, fears, and forbidden excitement. As I hung up the phone, I caught a final glance in the mirror. The reflection was no longer just a young man struggling to find his place in the world. It was a young man stepping fully into a role he had never anticipated, Victoria's daughter, elegant, poised, and completely at her mercy. And the suspense, the thrill, the vulnerability of it all was just beginning. The following morning, I returned to Victoria's mansion with a mixture of excitement and dread knotting my stomach. My wardrobe had expanded overnight in my imagination, each outfit a potential armor, each heel a test of balance and poise. Victoria greeted me at the door, her gaze sharp and assessing as always. "Jake," she said, her tone both commanding and approving, "today we refine everything. Your posture, your expressions, your gestures, you are no longer just an assistant. You are my daughter, a reflection of refinement and grace. Remember that." I nodded, feeling the weight of the expectations settle over me like a second skin. The day began with lessons in etiquette, how to sit without collapsing into awkwardness, how to tilt my head slightly while speaking, how to move my hands with delicate intention. Every motion required focus, every gesture scrutiny. Even the way I breathed became a calculated decision, meant to reflect elegance rather than nervousness. Victoria watched me closely, correcting minor mistakes with a soft but firm voice. "Raise your chin slightly. Let your shoulders fall naturally. Do not stiffen. Elegance is not rigidity." I tried, and tried again, each attempt leaving me more acutely aware of my own body. Every step, every motion was a balancing act. My heels clicked sharply against the marble floors, echoing through the silent halls. I could feel my legs trembling under the strain, but I had to maintain the illusion. Any falter could reveal the secret identity I was painstakingly constructing. After hours of practice, Victoria introduced the social aspect. "You must be comfortable in public settings," she explained. "Guests, clients, and even acquaintances of the family will interact with you. How you respond, the tone of your voice, the grace in your movements, all must reflect your role as my daughter." Our first trial was a luncheon with Victoria's acquaintances, a small, intimate gathering, yet enough to terrify me. As we arrived, I noticed how the other women, all poised and polished, evaluated me with polite curiosity. My pulse quickened, my palms slightly sweaty inside my gloves. This was a new level of exposure, and I was acutely aware of every flaw, every misstep I might make. Victoria gave me a subtle nod as we entered the room. "Remember, Jake, confidence is key. Appear natural. Let grace be your shield." I smiled politely, each step deliberate, feeling the weight of my heels with every move. The conversation began, and I carefully navigated my words, my gestures, my laughter. The thrill of being observed, of performing under scrutiny, sent a strange rush through me, mingling with fear. I realized that cross-dressing in this context wasn't just about clothing, it was a full embodiment of another identity, a persona I could no longer hide behind. Throughout the afternoon, I found myself slipping into the role more comfortably. My voice softened, my gestures became smoother, and a strange confidence began to emerge. And yet, there was always the underlying fear of being exposed, of being discovered by someone, anyone, who might see the truth behind the elegant facade. Back at the mansion, Victoria decided it was time for a more private, intensive training session. "Makeup," she said, "is essential. Your features must reflect refinement without appearing artificial. You are not merely dressing up, you are creating a presence, an identity." I sat at her vanity, my fingers trembling slightly as I reached for the brushes. Victoria guided me patiently, her hands occasionally correcting mine, demonstrating subtle techniques to highlight my cheekbones, define my eyes, and soften my jawline. The process was meticulous, time-consuming, and strangely intoxicating. Each stroke of foundation, each sweep of blush, each delicate application of lip color made the transformation more complete and more real. As the mirror reflected my new self, I felt an unfamiliar mix of vulnerability and empowerment. The man I had been seemed distant, almost irrelevant, replaced by a delicate, refined version of myself that Victoria had shaped and encouraged. I could feel her eyes on me, assessing, approving, and pushing me to perfection. The next challenge was clothing. Victoria had a wardrobe reserved for special occasions, a collection of dresses, skirts, blouses, and accessories that reflected the family's wealth and sophistication. She selected a pale pink dress for me, simple but elegant, paired with matching heels. "This is about subtlety and elegance," she explained. "Too flashy will draw the wrong attention. You must blend refinement with charm." I changed behind a screen, the fabric brushing my skin, the heels unfamiliar but exhilarating. Standing in front of the mirror, I adjusted the fit, the hemline, the drape. The reflection was striking, soft, poised, undeniably feminine. My pulse quickened as I realized just how far I had gone in this transformation, how completely I had embraced this new identity. Victoria inspected me, nodding slightly. "You are improving. But remember, it is not just about appearance. Your movements, your voice, your expressions must all align. Perfection is holistic." The days that followed were a delicate balance of instruction, practice, and subtle challenges. Victoria introduced me to the family staff, who were polite but discerning, expecting refinement and poise. Each interaction tested my composure, every glance a reminder that one misstep could unravel the carefully constructed persona. Despite the fear, a thrill began to emerge. I discovered new ways of carrying myself, speaking, and thinking. I learned to anticipate reactions, to navigate subtle social cues, and to embody elegance in every movement. The duality of my life, the man I had been and the daughter I was becoming, created a tension that was simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. Yet, the shadow of Isabella lingered in my mind. I wanted to share this experience, to explain the transformation, but I feared her reaction. Would she understand? Accept? Or would this secret, this new persona, create distance between us? The uncertainty gnawed at me, adding another layer of suspense to my life. Each evening, after the lessons and social interactions, I returned to my small room at the mansion, exhausted but electrified. I practiced in front of mirrors, experimenting with gestures, expressions, and movement, refining every detail until the persona felt second nature. And each time I caught a glimpse of myself, I felt the thrill of a secret world opening before me, a world where fear, excitement, and transformation intertwined. Then came the first major test, a dinner with Victoria's business associates. The night was looming, and the mansion buzzed with preparation. My outfit had been selected, my makeup perfected, my hair styled flawlessly. The adrenaline surged through me as I approached the grand dining room, heels clicking against polished marble, heart pounding with both fear and anticipation. Victoria's eyes met mine as I entered. "Remember, Jake," she whispered, "you are not just presenting yourself, you are representing me. Any hesitation, any flaw, will be noticed." I swallowed hard, stepping into the role completely. Every word I spoke, every gesture I made, every tilt of my head was calculated and deliberate. The thrill, the fear, the vulnerability, it all merged into a sensation I had never experienced. I was no longer merely Jake, I was Victoria's daughter, poised, elegant, and under intense scrutiny. And just as the first guest approached, smiling politely, I realized that this was only the beginning. The stakes were higher than I had imagined, and the suspense was far from over. Every moment, every glance, every word could reveal the truth behind the persona I had created, or thrust me further into a world I was only just beginning to inhabit. The night of the dinner arrived, and the mansion seemed to hum with energy. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across the polished floors, reflecting off the long dining table set with immaculate precision. The air was rich with the scent of flowers, candles, and fine cuisine, creating an atmosphere of opulence that made my heart race. I adjusted the folds of my dress and felt the slight wobble of my heels. My reflection in the hallway mirror was flawless, or so it seemed, but I could feel the tension coiled in every muscle, every fiber of my being. Victoria's voice rang softly behind me. Remember, Jake, one misstep, one hesitation, and everything unravels.
You are my daughter tonight.
Own it.
I nodded, swallowing hard.
The guests began arriving, each one a polished reflection of wealth and refinement. Their eyes lingered on me briefly as I entered the dining room, taking my designated seat beside Victoria. The murmurs and polite greetings added to the pressure. I felt the duality of my identity more acutely than ever, the man I had been, hidden beneath the poised, delicate facade I now inhabited. The conversation began smoothly, guided by Victoria's deft hand. I responded with carefully measured words, matching her tone and cadence, nodding at appropriate intervals, laughing lightly when appropriate. Each motion, each glance, was deliberate. The thrill of performing under scrutiny mingled with the fear of exposure, creating a tense, electrifying energy that made my pulse race. Halfway through the dinner, a sudden knock at the door made me start.
My stomach sank. Who could it be at this hour?
Victoria rose, composed, and gestured for me to remain seated. The door opened, revealing a young man who looked vaguely familiar. Recognition sparked in my mind. It was Ethan, one of my former co-workers. Panic surged through me. If he recognized me, if he saw through the persona I had built, everything could collapse. Victoria's voice cut through my anxiety. Ethan, what a surprise.
Come in.
I forced a polite smile, trying to maintain composure. My hands trembled slightly on my lap, the heels biting into my feet as I shifted nervously. Ethan's gaze swept over the table, lingering briefly on me. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if trying to place the familiar in this elegant, unfamiliar form. Jake, he said, voice uncertain. Is that you? I froze, heat rising to my cheeks. Every heartbeat thundered in my ears. The guests murmured softly, sensing the tension. I could feel Victoria's hand brush lightly against mine under the table, a silent warning, a signal to remain poised. Yes, it's me. I managed, voice steady despite the panic inside. I've been, well, circumstances have changed. Ethan tilted his head, curiosity and suspicion flickering in his eyes.
You look different. Are you dressing up?
The words were a dagger. My entire secret, my transformation, my delicate balance of fear and thrill, was on the verge of exposure. I clenched my fists under the table, willing myself to remain calm. Victoria's voice, calm and commanding, filled the room. Jake has been entrusted with a special role, Ethan. One that requires refinement and grace. Perhaps you will understand in time. Ethan hesitated, then nodded slowly, his gaze still flicking toward me. I exhaled slightly, but the relief was short-lived. The suspense was far from over. Dinner continued, but every movement, every word, every glance felt magnified. I was hyper-aware of my posture, my expressions, my tone of voice. The thrill of embodying this new identity merged with the fear of discovery, creating a tension that was almost unbearable. After dinner, Victoria guided me to the drawing room for a private demonstration. She wanted me to practice social interactions with potential clients, refining my gestures and expressions even further. The room was quiet, save for the soft ticking of an antique clock. Jake, Victoria said, tonight you will host a small gathering. You must navigate conversations, impress without arrogance, and embody the persona fully. This is not a test of appearance alone. It is a test of your soul. My hands trembled slightly as I nodded. The weight of her expectations pressed down on me, but I felt a strange exhilaration in rising to meet them. I moved through the room, engaging the guests, each interaction a careful dance of words, gestures, and expressions. Every laugh, every tilt of the head, every subtle nod was calculated, yet felt oddly natural as the persona solidified within me. Then came the unexpected obstacle. A sudden power outage plunged the room into darkness. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the guests. My heart leapt into my throat. The fragile balance of control, the illusion of perfection, had been shattered. Victoria remained composed, her voice calm but authoritative. Stay poised. This is the moment to show true grace. I felt my pulse racing as I fumbled slightly, heels clicking against the floor in the darkness. The soft rustle of fabric, the low murmur of frightened voices, and my own rapid breathing heightened the suspense. I could hear the guests shifting nervously, unsure of the situation. Then a sudden movement. Someone tripped over a rug, nearly colliding with me. I reached out instinctively, my fingers brushing against the delicate sleeve of my dress.
The contact sent a jolt of both fear and thrill through me.
The room was chaotic, but I had to maintain the persona, to stay elegant, poised, untouchable in the eyes of everyone. As the lights flickered back on, relief washed over me, briefly. But the tension lingered. Guests whispered, some glancing at me curiously, others exchanging cautious smiles. I realized that one small misstep, one slip of the persona, could expose everything. The final test of the evening arrived in the form of a mirror. Victoria directed me to stand before it, adjusting my posture and expression.
Look at yourself, Jake. This is who you are now.
Embrace it fully, or the illusion crumbles. The reflection staring back was breathtaking and terrifying. Delicate features, flawless makeup, elegant attire, and a posture radiating confidence. Yet beneath the surface, I felt the duality, the nervous, unsure Jake hiding beneath the refined exterior. The mirror reflected both personas, merging into a single, fragile balance. And then, the ultimate twist. Isabella, my girlfriend, appeared at the doorway, her eyes wide with shock. Jake, is that really you?
The room froze.
Every heartbeat thundered in my ears. The guests' eyes turned toward us, sensing the tension, the imminent revelation. I could feel my face flush, my hands shake, and my entire carefully constructed persona teetering on the edge of exposure. Victoria's voice cut through the silence, calm but commanding. Jake, this is your moment.
Face her. Own it.
I swallowed hard, knowing that the next words, the next movements, would determine everything. Would I maintain the persona, risking Isabella's judgment, or reveal the truth and shatter the delicate world I had built? The suspense was unbearable. Every glance, every breath, every heartbeat carried the weight of possibility. And in that moment, standing poised in heels, dressed elegantly, and under the gaze of both my mentor and my lover, I realized that nothing would ever be the same.
The room was still.
Isabella's eyes locked onto mine, wide and unblinking, as though trying to reconcile the Jake she knew with the refined, delicate figure standing before her. Guests had fallen silent, sensing the tension, the fragile moment suspended in time. My heart raced, every beat echoing like a drum in my chest. Victoria's calm, composed presence stood beside me, a silent reminder of the persona I had created. Jake, she said softly, this is your moment.
Stand tall.
Own who you are. I took a shaky breath, heels digging into the polished floor, and tried to steady myself. My fingers clenched slightly in front of me, the silk of my dress brushing against my skin. I wanted to explain, to tell Isabella everything, but the words caught in my throat. How could I reveal the months of training, the transformation, the fear and thrill of stepping fully into this role, without shattering the delicate balance I had fought so hard to maintain? Isabella took a hesitant step forward, her expression torn between shock and curiosity. Jake, why are you like this? Her voice was quiet, almost vulnerable, betraying the mixture of emotions she was feeling, confusion, disbelief, and perhaps a hint of fascination. I swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. Isabella, it's complicated. I've been learning, growing. I'm trying to. Ethan, still at the side, cleared his throat, breaking the momentary stillness.
I didn't recognize you at first.
You look incredible, but is this real? The guests murmured softly, their curiosity piqued, their polite interest now tinged with suspicion. Every second stretched longer, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I could feel the persona I had crafted, the elegant, refined daughter of Victoria Langford, slipping like sand through my fingers. One misstep, one faltering glance, and everything would unravel. Victoria's hand rested lightly on my shoulder, grounding me. Jake, maintain your composure. The world sees what you allow it to see. You are who you choose to be. I nodded, forcing a calm I didn't feel. My reflection in the polished surfaces of the room seemed almost surreal, a poised, elegant figure standing in stark contrast to the chaos of emotions roiling inside me. I could feel the thrill and fear intermingling, each heartbeat a reminder of the precarious balance I had to maintain. Isabella stepped closer, eyes narrowing slightly as she studied me.
Are you pretending? Or is this real? Are you my Jake?
The question hung in the air, heavy and impossible to answer without revealing too much. I wanted to reach for her, to pull her into my world, but the fear of judgment, of rejection, held me back. Instead, I simply smiled, a delicate, elegant smile that conveyed nothing and everything at once. The doorbell rang suddenly, startling everyone. Victoria raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. "That must be our final guest," she said smoothly. "Jake, greet them properly. Remember, grace, poise, elegance. Everything depends on it." I felt a surge of panic as I moved toward the door, the tension coiling tighter in my chest.
Who could it be?
Another unexpected visitor, another obstacle threatening to expose everything? The uncertainty made my pulse race. As I opened the door, I froze. Standing there was a figure I never expected, someone from my past, someone who knew me before any of this, someone who could unravel the fragile illusion in an instant. Recognition flashed in their eyes, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to tilt. Victoria's hand squeezed my shoulder gently, a silent reassurance, but the weight of the moment was unbearable. Every guest, every witness, every expectation pressed down on me. My secret, my transformation, my dual identity, all teetered on the brink of exposure. Isabella's voice, soft but insistent, broke through the storm of thoughts in my mind. "Jake, tell me.
Now.
What's happening?" I opened my mouth, but the words caught in my throat.
Could I explain?
Could I reveal the truth without shattering everything? My reflection in the polished floor, the mirrors lining the walls, the eyes of everyone in the room, they all seemed to hold me captive. And then, the unexpected guest stepped forward, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across their face. Well, look who we have here." Their voice was familiar, teasing, and full of implication. In that moment, I realized that my carefully constructed world, the persona I had built, the elegance I had embodied, was about to be challenged in ways I had never anticipated. The suspense was unbearable.
Every eye in the room was on me.
Every heartbeat thudded painfully against my chest. The persona I had fought to perfect, the elegance, the refinement, the grace, it could all be undone in a single moment. And yet, beneath the fear, a thrill surged, a dangerous excitement that I couldn't deny.
I glanced at Victoria.
Her expression was calm, unreadable, yet there was a glint of approval in her eyes, as if she had orchestrated this test from the beginning. She squeezed my shoulder once more, a subtle signal to maintain composure. Isabella's eyes bore into mine, her lips slightly parted in shock, anticipation, and a hint of betrayal. The guests waited, the mansion silent but charged with tension, every second stretching longer and more unbearable than the last. And in that frozen moment, standing poised in heels, dressed elegantly, and facing the unknown consequences of my transformation, I understood that nothing would ever be the same. My dual identity, my secret, and my carefully constructed persona were all at the mercy of the next few words, the next glance, the next revelation.
The room held its breath. I held mine. And then,